Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome to all your latest Chelsea news. And it might be the international break, but we're never far from some drama, never far from things to talk about. And perfectly overnight, a lovely interview from Marc Cucurella has dropped of him slamming the Chelsea project and basically saying everything that as fans we've been saying for a while. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into the Enzo Fernandez stuff, more Liam Rossignol, Chelsea in general, and whatever things you lot are saying in the chat. Big up to everyone that's locked in. Make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here. All of the usual bits and pieces. Guys, before we dive into it, as always, just a quick reminder, make sure you check out Jersey's FC Soccer Shop. Link is in the description. Use code BLUEBROTHER for 20% off. And before anyone says it, no, the money doesn't go to the club. It's nothing to do with the club, so you can relax about that. You can get your retro kits. You can get your kits this season with the new front of shirt sponsor on them if you want. Get World Cup jerseys, whatever you want, guys. Make sure you check it out. Link in the description. Use code BLUEBROTHER for 20% off. That's enough about that. Nina, how are you? It's been a while since we've spoken about Chelsea together and stuff. How you been? You all right?
Yeah, I've been good, to be honest. I've really enjoyed, I don't say this often, that I enjoy international break, but I think it's come at a good time because it's actually given me some peace from Chelsea. I mean, I don't ever really say that, but it's been such a welcome break and, to be honest, just completely turned off from everything. But obviously when you have interviews like the one that we're just about to talk about, it's difficult not to acknowledge.
It was a wonderful thing to wake up to. You know, not many better, other than maybe Rossignol being sacked or owners selling up. Those two things would have been better to wake up to. But waking up to Cucurella saying what needed to be said is a wonderful start to the day. Before we get into it, I just need to address something in the chat because it's irritating me, and I'm just going to address it now. I'm fully aware of the video that is out there. Everyone knows about it. So why do I need to mention it again? You know about it. I've mentioned it now. What's the problem here? You know, I'm not a fan of the ownership. That's pretty obvious. My stance hasn't changed. So why do I need to then acknowledge the video? It's out there. I know about it. Cool. Everyone else knows about it. Great. Why do I have to say something about it when it's already well documented and it's out there? So there we go. Anyway, let's have a look. Is there any other comments coming in? No. Yeah, big up. Yeah, anyway. They can sell. Well, what's you know, it's this. I don't understand why I have to say that when it's well documented and it's out there. And if you want to go and watch the information about it, it's there for you to go and watch. You know, that's that. You know, simple as that. Anyway, let's get into it. Marc Cucurella. To be fair, I wasn't really expecting sort of damning quotes from him. But as a vast-ranging interview in The Athletic, we know that Enzo Fernandez has spoken out about the ownership. He's spoken about his future. You know, he's obviously was disappointed with the sacking of Enzo Maresca. And it's kind of like a domino effect. You know, it's kind of always like if one player in the squad feels like that, there's guaranteed there's going to be more that feel that way. This is what we need. We need more people calling this sort of stuff out. Let me just go through some of the quotes from it. The moment Maresca left, it had a big impact on us. These are decisions taken by the club. If you asked me, I would not have made this decision. Understand this is part of the club's policy and that they want to take this direction, signing young players, looking to the future. But for all of us who are still here and want to win big things, moments like the PSG game make you feel discouraged. We've got a good core of players. The foundations are there, but to fight for major trophies such as the Premier League or the Champions League, you need more. Signing young players only might complicate achieving those goals. Obviously, there's loads more which we can get into. This is bigger for me than anything we as fans can do, because when it's coming from the inside and when it's coming from senior players that are there day in, day out, living and breathing it and seeing it firsthand, and now it's more than one of them. That's powerful. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. I mean, I'm not surprised because I had the feeling the players felt this way. I mean, it's not a secret to anyone. They were all shocked with the Enzo Maresca departure. Obviously they're at the front of it all and they deal with the transition firsthand. Like, we are fans and we're spectators and we watch the football and we read about the club and we follow the club, etc. But they're the ones who actually are very much in the mix and in the middle of it all. So I'm not surprised that Cucurella feels this way. I'm not surprised that Enzo Fernandez feels this way. For all I know, probably the whole team discusses this and they have these concerns. So it's good that he said how he felt. And you're right in saying that it's a lot more powerful than what the fans on social media can say. Obviously, we do have our own voices, but the players coming out and saying it is a whole different story. Obviously, what he said is all true. It's something that we've all discussed. He's, brought up points about the recruitment strategy. There's a feeling of low confidence about the direction of the club. The players were told one thing when being recruited, and this whole project they were invited to believe in, and they're all seeing firsthand that it's all untrue. That it is all very flawed. That it is all very, just sour, and it feels very doom and gloom. So I'm not surprised, and this just kind of makes me feel like, we're not really going to see much confidence from the players moving forward. They obviously don't really believe in this, and it translates on the pitch as well. I don't imagine where you get confidence to see out the season in a positive way as well, if this is how individuals are feeling. But to me, more than anything, this means that Cucurella's Chelsea future is pretty much done. I think he will want out, and it makes me sad because Cucurella is one of those players who actually I could see being somewhat of a backbone in this team, and a player that we could certainly look to for the future, someone who has proved himself as a very good player and also somewhat of a bit of a leader as well. So to have a player like this potentially out the door is basically just stampeding on everything that we've tried to look forward to, and it does mean we are kind of doomed. Same with Enzo.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, like, as much as you hate seeing your top players speak out in a negative manner against the club, players revolting is exactly what needs to happen. We need more top players to speak out, to threaten to leave the club, because this ownership for the last 4 years have ignored, the intangibles that you need to be successful in football. They've disrespected and disregarded the most important parts of building a successful team for far too long. And with this, there's no amounts of briefing, there's no amounts of PRs, there's no amounts of press conferences and Liam Rossignol trying to claim things were lost in translation and all the players are really happy. None of that can cover this up. It's there in black and white. It's the cold, hard facts. And you simply can't ignore it, and whether that means that they're not going to offer Cucurella a new contract in the summer when he's got 2 years left, then so be it, because sometimes the truth's more important than, just towing the line, getting a new deal. You've got to stand by your beliefs. And I think that was the same with Enzo Maresca. He could have sucked that up and just toughed it out until the end of the season and thought, this is a massive job, the biggest job of my career so far. I'm fortunate to be in this position. But again, he stood by his principles, and you have to do that. If you want to be successful, then you have to drive and demand higher standards. And that's ultimately what this is. This is making it clear that what you're doing isn't working. And we need more players to do this. I know Reece James is not that sort of character, but you can imagine that a Reece James, a Cole Palmer, these kinds of players must be thinking the same thing as well. And it would be massively powerful if Reece James came out and said it as the club captain, as someone that lives and breathes Chelsea. He's kind of Mr. Chelsea at this point in time, but that's not in his character. He's too introverted, to do that. But do you think we'll see more players coming and speaking out now? It's kind of like a domino effect. Enzo, then Cucurella, and there's bound to be more thinking that way. There's a lot of noise still around Cole Palmer's future and about him not being entirely happy with the situation at the football club. I'm sure there's many others as well. you've had Gusto, Cucurella, and Enzo all call out Rosinia's tactics in differing moments. This could be sort of, I don't want to say like a major breakthrough, a watershed moment, but it feels like it's quite powerful, and it should have serious ramifications moving forward, but it probably won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no hiding away from it anymore. Everybody knows what's up at Chelsea, and that's the players included. Everybody feels the same way. So it's not just a minority opinion anymore. It is a majority. Everybody, like I've never seen the Chelsea fan base so united in this view. And the players are, like I said, they are at the forefront of it all. Like regarding Reece James, I think, bless him, he's tried to really hold things together in the last kind of couple of years through this takeover and this transition, and trying to sort of like, I guess, like soften the blow, because it's been so horrible, and he's almost just tried to say, look, like we can see past this, we can get through it, like we're Chelsea. And I think he's really just been this kind of guy who's tried to, like, you know, say everything's going to be okay, but I think he's well aware and also quite unhappy with what's going on. And how can you feel like this is good? Like, you know, we're all seeing it now. Like even as the hopeless Chelsea fan I've always been called, like in the last few years, right, I've taken the rosy glasses off this year, and I do see it for what it is. Like, I am unhappy. I'm very unhappy. I don't feel positive about Chelsea's future. I'm not accepting mediocrity, but I've accepted that this is the situation of the club, and that things need to change, because we're not headed in a good direction. And what happens when these players leave in summer? What, we're going to just recruit another couple youngsters who won't mind what's happening at Chelsea, because they'll just be happy to play for the badge and say that they've been at a club like Chelsea. Like, they're not going to exactly be coming in to try and instill like hope and determination that we can be a successful great club again. No, it's very much going to be recruiting players who will just be happy to string along and, I don't know, like believe in this so-called project. But players like Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez, like they're beyond that, they're seeing past it now. And of course, you can't blame them that they want to go and win trophies. Like Enzo Fernandez arrived as a World Cup winner, and he was chasing club success. Now he's not going to get that at Chelsea, because there is no indication that we're anywhere near a Premier League title, any indication that we can get to a Champions League trophy again in the next few years.
And it's also it's not as simple as, oh, just qualify for the Champions League and everything will be fine. It's not, because that's not the ambition. You know, when these players were signing, you can guarantee that they were told that we're going to be winning Champions Leagues, winning Premier Leagues, competing for major honours. Just qualifying for the Champions League and making up the numbers is not good enough. It's not acceptable. And there's no signs at all of us getting any nearer to being able to do that. You know, in fact, I think this summer they're going to double down on this approach more than they've ever doubled down on it before. I think there's serious problems at the football club, and the more players that speak out, the more fans that speak out, the more, you know, noise you can get behind it, then at some point all that surely is going to become too much to ignore. It has to. It simply has to. And you know, I've just come across this clip from Graham Potter, our good friend Graham, and what he said. This was from a while. This is obviously after he was sacked by Chelsea. Like, he was on the High Performance podcast. Are we going to get copyrighted for this? No, I don't think we are going to get copyrighted for this. We're going to play it anyway. And this clip here speaking about Chelsea is absolutely spot on.
I think Chelsea was the hardest job in football. It's not that I couldn't do it, but if you go in and you take a sledgehammer to a place and change it that quickly, sometimes there'll be collateral damage. I don't think the conditions were there for us to be successful. They were there to be really challenging. If you change 20, 30 players in 2 or 3 windows, the instability of that is hard to deal with. It's my job as a coach to improve what we've got. As it was, we took a different decision, which is another 7 players. And then you're like, okay, we've got to start again here.
Can I ask you about your relationship with the people that appointed you then, the owners?
I went from Brighton, which is Tony Bloom, you know, leadership structure, to me, and then owners and LA on a Zoom call at Chelsea. You know, pressure. That's the brutal nature of football. If they don't think you're the right person, you know, you're out. And that hurt a little bit, I must admit.
A little bit?
A lot. Of course.
Total honesty, all your cards on the table. Where do you now feel, if you went in again, you would operate differently?
So yeah, it's essentially exactly the same thing. Is we're not run like a football club. We are a business experiment. I don't understand why more people can't see that, you know. And you can talk about, no, we didn't win. We didn't win every year with Roman. We didn't win the big trophies every year. But what we did for the vast majority of those 20 years is we competed. We employed the best managers possible, and we signed the best players possible to give us the best possible chance of winning. We don't do any of that now. We are literally, I don't want to say we're a social experiment, but we are just, you know, a business disguised as a football club.
Experiment, Charlie. Like, we
an experiment, yeah.
Experiment from the start. Like, this has never been done this way in football. Like, these operations that began from the get-go, like, they were never proven in the Premier League. They've never been done this way. So what on earth made them think that operating this way would lead to success and long-term stability? Like, stripped the club from the bottom. Everybody, like, kept banging on about the old Chelsea. The whole point of them coming in was to strip the old Chelsea and try and do and build something of their own that's never been done before, with no proven success, no example of it working out in any shape or form, no experience in like the hierarchy positions of, you know, like previous people that have succeeded in this way, just constantly trial and erroring, like hiring and firing managers who again have like no proven success, then again repeating the same mistake, going back and forth on core values and ambitions for the club, like moving goalposts constantly, high turnover of squad with unproven players, addressing areas that we don't need to, and ignoring areas that we have needed to address. And it's all just been so experimental to a point where of course it's going to backfire, and of course the players are not buying into it. Like Graham Potter, there you go. Like I said, arguably out of all the managers we've had, he had it the worst, because he arrived right in the middle of the turmoil and in the middle of literally this whole like stripping of everything that Chelsea was. So arguably like dropped into like the worst possible time. So, you know, when Graham Potter said the boys gave it everything, he was really just trying to protect them as much as he could from everything that was going on, that we were, I guess, a little bit more oblivious to at the start, because, you know, even we didn't know what was going on, and we were just like, okay, fine, like the club definitely needed a rebuild, like we were all behind that. But the way that it was done, it was just completely like scattergun. It was erratic, it was crazy, it was like going back and forth on decisions being made. And again, that just should have gave us an indication earlier on that this is an experiment, and it's like learning on the go. And now we're 4 years into it, and it feels like we're even further behind than where it all began, because now it's just like a whole, even like a bigger massive mess. There's been like paper over the cracks through the years where we've had some really like highs, some big highs of like certain individual games and performances, and like winning the couple trophies that we have, and that's kind of just made us like for a moment forget like the bigger, I guess, picture. But now for the first time, no matter what happens, like, even securing Champions League football, even supposedly winning an FA Cup, nothing changes. Like it doesn't mean anything, because the reality is like the bigger ambition for the club is just so further away than where it all began, like challenging for a Premier League, like being in the Champions League and competing with the best teams. So it's all fun and games, like fine, like get into Champions League football, but what next? Because you're not going to use the Champions League law in the summer to attract top players, high profile players. We know that's not going to be
we already saw that last summer when we got into the Champions League, and we signed Gittins, Garnacho and Delap. So
and also being in the tournament though, Charlie, in itself, we were just shown how far away we are from competing with the big dogs, like fun and games beating PSG. But like the way, like, the losing, and obviously Cucurella alluded to it in the interview, like getting smacked 8-2 on aggregate, that's not even like, oh, that's not even a team that's like work in progress trying like their best at. That was an absolute gulf of class there, with the mistakes that we made, the experience we had at that level. So fine, get there again. But we were shown levels, like even Bayern Munich, the first game back into Champions League football, even that could have just told you how this whole like Champions League journey would go down this whole season. The mistakes that we made, the cheap goals given, like Cucurella spoke about it, the fact that you don't have experience in that team is just so telling. You know, he's a Euros winner. He knows what it
He's a
takes
winner.
to be there at the highest level. Have
And he-
players around you who have been there, have had that experience. And Enzo Fernandez and Cucurella arguably are the players that I'd say have that fight and grit and passion. The other players maybe just kind of get on with it, a bit more tame, a bit more passive. And when you lose those two characters, it's a massive blow. Like, you can say what you want about their footballing ability.
But
Like,
it's
I
not
know
just-
they provide opinion, but it's just like you take that
But
away, and it's like,
yeah, but it's not just that though, right? It's not just them potentially leaving. It's the fact that you know that
They're not
both of
gonna be
those
replaced.
both of those players will be replaced with significantly worse players, and significantly downgrading and making the team and the squad worse. You know, I've always maintained I don't have an issue of players leaving as long as better players are brought in to replace them, or players of the same level. We know full well that if either of these two players leave in the summer, a far worse player is coming in to replace
let
them.
me remind
And-
you, Cucurella was recruited because City wanted him, by the
yeah,
way.
but do you know what's the mad thing is, right? And Bowley was honest about that. He was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I heard that Man City wanted Cucurella. If Man City wanted him, he must be good. And do you know what's the mad thing about that is that recruitment strategy is genuinely better than the recruitment strategy we've employed since directors actually came in. That just if a top team wants him, he must be good. Maybe we need to go back to doing that, because at least then we were actually seemingly targeting half decent players. But I think now you're noticing that players are clocking onto the fact that we're not being run like a football club. We're run as a business, you know. And whether you like Tenzo Maresca or not, and there are plenty of people that didn't like him, you cannot deny that we were close to taking a quite significant step forward under him, you know. And the ownership made his squad weaker. They refused to bring in the high quality experienced players that he needed. They refused to give him a centre back, and they refused to address the key issues. And they tried to micromanage absolutely everything. And people can say what they want. The evidence is there in front of us for all to see. The priority for this ownership is player trading. And that's what they're doing. They're just using players as commodities. You know, they've made it abundantly clear. You know, and maybe, look, some people saw it earlier than others. Maybe some of us didn't want to believe that was the case, but the signs have been there pretty much the entire time. This project is not about winning. They couldn't care less about winning. If they win, fine, you know, but as long as they're making money and they're signing players and then they're selling them on, you know, that's all they're seemingly actually bothered about. And I would never wish on players to walk out of the football club. I'd never wish for Chelsea to lose games, but in terms of playing the long game for the greater good of the club in the long term, if it means that we need some players, top players, to leave the club, if we need to lose games and not finish in Champions League football or find ourselves back in the Conference League again, as shit as that is, as much as the fans will be the ones that feel that the most, and it's not fair because of the money that you spend following your team and how you invest in them, if that's what's needed to make change in the long term, then I think we just kind of have to accept it.
I don't think we'll need to try though, Charlie. I don't think we need to actually try to do that. Like, I laugh, but the reality is that looks like the way we're headed. Like, if we want to like just circle round back to the end of the season, like the run of games we have, this is what annoys me, right? We're in the same position we were last year, the year before, where it was like we got to this point in the season and it's like, right, we need to, by hook or by crook, try and secure Champions League football. Like, that's how it was last year. It came to the end of the season. Again, Pochettino, previous season, it was the same thing. Like, what indication of progression is there? Like, you don't even need to know. You don't even need to be a Chelsea fan. Like, you don't even need to know everything we've been through just to see that we are in the same position every single season. We are no way near like progressing, and you just find yourself in that pit where it's like, well, it's so obviously that we're going to just hit reset in summer and it's just going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same thing, and it's like there's just no indication that we're a cohesive institution that's moving together, and there's a sense of togetherness. And a lot of the managers that are clearly here, like, they are all like, they've all felt disconnected from the hierarchy. They don't feel included in it. It very much feels like there's the ownership, the sporting directors, just the whole like hierarchy, and then there's like the manager and the head coach is completely cut out out of that, and they just like get relayed all of this like information, and then you've got the players who are the ones who directly work under like the coach. So like you talk about having a different manager, you talk about having, nobody wants to operate in this system, and it's as simple as that. There's going to be a breakdown in relations with every single coach. There has obviously been, like with Pochettino, with Maresca, Rosenior, I don't know, he gets on with them like he is, for all I know, he's like
he's not respected though, is he? Let's be real,
because
because
that's not the point. They're not looking for a manager that is going like it's more like, oh, we want someone who's going to listen, like get on with it. Like, you know, if Rosenior can survive with all the backlash that he gets, and he's in a good place. He's managing Chelsea. It's on his CV.
He is, but what I would say is, like, let's put it this way, right? These Cucurella and Enzo are not saying those comments if Maresca's manager. It just doesn't happen. And the reason this is happening is because the dressing room do not respect the manager. They don't believe in the manager. They're not buying into what the manager is trying to put across. They don't believe in the football club. They don't believe in the project. They don't believe in anything that's going on, full stop. You only have to look at the performances on the pitch in the last 3 or 4 games. We all know we're going to lose football matches. It's part of being a fan. You're going to lose, right? But there's ways you can lose. The implosion in the last 15 minutes in the first leg, the Newcastle game, the second leg, and the Everton game. Those are performances for me, and we've seen it before, not just with Chelsea teams, but with many other clubs. Those are performances of players who do not believe in the message the manager is trying to get across, who do not respect the manager, who aren't playing for the manager. You can't tell me that those we know that the players aren't good enough, the vast majority of them, but they're capable of putting in better performances than what we see in the last few games. And I can tell you now, we would not have lost these 4 games we might have lost these 4 games on the Maresca. We would not have lost those 4 games in the manner that we lost them in. I mean, we know that Liam Rosenior is not good enough. We know he's severely out of his depth. And I do feel a little bit sorry for him to a certain extent. I think he should just be put out of his misery, because it's kind of almost unfair to a degree on a human level to have someone just so out of their depth and, you know, have to take all the criticism about, you know, his character and all this and all that or whatever. But ultimately for me, once you've lost the dressing room, I think it's pretty clear he has, it's virtually impossible to win that back round. And you can talk about whether it's right that footballers down tools on managers and don't play for a manager to get them out, you know, and they're paid a lot of money to play for the football club. Whether you like the manager or believe in the manager or not, you should give 100% when you're on the football pitch for the fans and kind of for yourself. I just look at it and think, if the manager was respected, this doesn't happen. You might think it privately, but it's not spoken about publicly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like Rosenior, we all agreed, like even at the appointment, like I don't think anyone was particularly remotely like inspired by the appointment itself. But you know, we just knew exactly, like as soon as we knew the Maresca news, we knew exactly who was coming in next, right? It wasn't even like they were
no shortlist.
Remotely, yeah, it's not like we were remotely like interested in exploring like high profile managers, or like we were looking around. It was very much like they had that plan before even maybe like Maresca arrived, or as soon as he was there, you know, like that was always going to be the plan. Just like we know who, like joke aside, the next manager is, right? Like Gary O'Neill, right? Obviously.
Well, just on that quickly, right? This look, I think we can all accept that Rosenior needs to go and he's out of his depth. However, we also need to realise 2 things. That one, the problems are always bigger than the manager.
Always, Charlie. They have been.
But also, quickly, secondly,
until the very end. Do you know what I mean? Like,
secondly, though, I think about. Rosenior needs to go and he's not good enough, right? But 2 things can be true: that he's not good enough and needs to go, but the problems are bigger than the manager. But secondly, if/when he goes, probably at the end of the season, I'm so worried about who could be next.
It's not
Like,
even about that
genuinely.
though. We're past that point. It doesn't matter who comes in, honestly. Like, even at this point, like, bring Luis Enrique in and he'll be out soon as well, because
He wouldn't even come in the first place.
he wouldn't even come. I know, but that's the whole point. Like, nobody wants to operate under this like regime. Of course not. Like, it's not designed for a manager with some agency. It's not exactly like they're willing to bring in someone who can actually maybe put a decent footprint on everything that's going on and try and at least make a good situation out of what's been a pretty poor situation, and a recruitment strategy that is flawed in many ways, and a model that's just designed to fail. So yeah, of course no one's going to operate. And that's why I always said, like, I was like hopelessly Pochettino until the end, not because I rated Pochettino as a manager as such and I thought he could win us a Premier League, but just more so because the manager's only a surface level of this whole like situation. Everyone that was like Potter out, Poch out, Mariska out, etc., fine, but it was never that the issue. Like, it's those further above. It always has been. That's why I always just refuse to get on the manager's case, because it hasn't been about the manager for a long time. So we can have conversations
of the
about
disease.
Rafinha.
Like, if the ownership's the disease, the manager is just a symptom of that disease at the end of the day.
Wow, an anecdote that is.
Well, it is though. Do you know what I mean? Like you can.
No, I do. I get it. Like, it is.
Like, until you address the root cause of the issue, you're never gonna fully solve the problem. You can bring a new manager in, you might get a bit of a bounce, you might get some results, but ultimately, as soon as there's any degree of success, and naturally people who are ambitious and want to achieve more and want to push on, as soon as they try and do that, they will be stopped from doing that at this football club, which it just is a mental sentence to be saying. It's just an absolutely mad situation to kind of even be in. I mean, we've kind of covered Cucurella, and it's good that he's spoken out. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez, another one who's been very vocal. Where do you stand on his future? I think it's clear he wants that move to Real Madrid. He's become disillusioned with the project. Obviously, he's under contract until 2031 or 2032. So Chelsea hold the cards to some degree in terms of demanding a high fee for his departure. But I think once a player's made it clear that they want to leave, if an approach does arrive from Real Madrid, regardless of how many years are left on the contract, you're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, no, facts. And really, like, the contract doesn't mean anything, to be honest. Like, realistically, like, Graham Potter was given a 5-year contract. Yeah, remember?
The rest of the 5-year contract, it doesn't matter.
That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't hold any substance. So yeah, like, Rosinia's decisions at the forefront, yes, they've been flawed. Like, of course, like, we will talk about it, like how you rotate your goalkeeper game in, game out, and how you treat your goalkeeper as an outfield player. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't know, maybe I don't understand football as well as I think I do, but is that actually a rational thing to change your goalkeeper game in, game out? Like, it doesn't make any sense, especially. And look, again, it's like he's in the situation where this is the best he has, right? Like, Robert Sanchez is number one because, like, who else?
But he's not, though. He doesn't work with a number one. He doesn't work with a number one, apparently. What nonsense is that? I don't work with a number one. I just pick on the opposition. But
it's actually ridiculous. Maybe you could do that if you had 2 world-class goalkeepers that, like,
that never works, though. We know that doesn't work, because we had Czech and Courtois, and it doesn't work. The last time they tried it at a big club was Raya and Ramsdale at Arsenal, right, when Raya first arrived. It doesn't work. Every club has got a number one and a number two. Why have you coming in and claiming you don't have a number one, and you pick on you're just making more problems for yourself? You're out of your depth as it is. Keep things simple. Why would you create further issues for yourself? It's just nonsense. Like, and that's where he doesn't help himself. Like, if you're out of your depth, right, and you don't root, and the job's way too big for you, you try and make things as easy as possible for yourself. You do the basics. You don't overcomplicate things. As soon as he had a few decent results at the start, we started seeing nonsense creeping in from him, trying to be innovative, trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to do different things. It's like, you're not that guy. You don't command that respect. You haven't got that ability as a manager at this point in time. Why are you not just doing the basics? When you're getting battered week in, week out, make yourself difficult to beat. When you're a struggling side, whether you're going for a bad run of form, or you're down the bottom of the table, wherever you are, the number one thing you must do, make yourself hard to beat. I genuinely think, other than maybe Wolves and Tottenham at this point in time,
Oh, don't say it.
There's not an easier team to beat than Chelsea at this point in time. We are so easy to play against. And that's on the manager.
I know. And
that's
guess
on
what?
the manager.
Port Vale are rubbing their hands right now.
I know we're shit, but I don't think we'll be that bad.
Well, I wouldn't put it past us at this point. I mean, we are just a laughing stock, aren't we? But yeah, like it's so telling, Charlie. Like we were at the games, like standing outside Stamford Bridge in 22-23, somehow feeling this is like the lowest you could get. And even though we are in a better position,
how wrong were we there? Oh, that was like that Southampton game on the Graham Potter. I thought, this is so bad. This is the worst I've ever felt as a Chelsea fan. And fast forward a few years, I said after the PSG defeat in the second leg, you think this is bad, it's going to get worse. And then it was Everton. I don't think we'll lose to Port Vale, but trust me, genuinely, there's a chance that we don't have European football next season. If we lose to Man City in our next game, right, and then Everton play Brentford in their next game, if we lose to City at home, which, let's face it, we probably will, and one of Everton or Brentford win, one of those two teams will be above us.
Nice. That's really cool. And also, yeah, like we're yet to play 3 teams that are sat above us in the table. Do you know what I mean? And we like teams that we've dropped points against. Like,
yeah, we're not beating any of those teams. Let's be real, we're not beating any of those teams.
Like, no, well, no, I don't really see it either, to be honest with you. Like, mate, it's just, and again, we're in a position where we've spent so much money. We've had so many like players come in. We've had so much change, and we're now in a position where we feel void of confidence of beating like all these teams that arguably have had either a worse start than us in this season, or have again not spent nearly as much money as us, not got nearly as much quality on paper supposedly, and are better off. And we're like striving for confidence to play against them. And you're so right, we are so easy to play against because there's nothing unpredictable about us in a good way. There's nothing like, you know, you look at the bench, it's like you're just hoping and praying your starting 11 is good enough to see out a result, because with all due respect, you've got players on that bench that I can't actually recall right now to name them, and that's not.
But you only have to look at the PSG game, right, and you see first leg, you know, they're bringing on Kvaratskhelia from the bench and we're bringing on Delap and Garnacho. Second leg, they're throwing on players like Doué, and you see that photo, so there's like a side-by-side of Doué coming on, and we've got Delap coming on. It's like the Champions League does one thing. When you play the best teams in Europe, it exposes who's got a good squad and who doesn't. There's no hiding place at the end of the day. And genuinely, like, if you read out some of our names on the bench, if I didn't know the team, I would genuinely say that's like a Brighton team or something like that, or it's like an Everton
on the bench,
or it's like an Everton, for example. You know, if someone said to me, Delap, Garnacho, Gittins, and stuff are on the bench, if you told me that was like Everton's bench or that was Newcastle's bench, for example, I'd believe you. This is Chelsea. Like, that's not what we do here. That's not what we do, and I hate to say it's going to get worse before it gets better. I genuinely believe that this last 7 games of the season, I think it could be an absolute car crash. Genuinely think it could be an absolute disaster, because now you've got a situation where there's more unwanted attention on the club because 2 key players have slammed the project over the international break, which no amount of PR or press conferences can cover up. You've got players that don't believe in the manager, players that aren't playing well. You've got tough games left. We'll obviously win games in the last 7. I'm not saying we're not going to win our last 7 games. I think we will win games. But you look at it now and you just think, this is arguably the worst it's ever been. Like in the last 4 years under this ownership. Like, this is worse than Graham Potter right now for me.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible for us to get worse than that. And at least with him, you could kind of understand it with the way that it was set up and the way that, you know, he was just parachuted into a mess, so many players being signed and whatnot. This is arguably a more stable group. It's a better quality of group. And we're so bad. We are so, like, this is not just the blip. We're genuinely shocking. Like, we are absolutely terrible. And I don't know what we do about it.
No, and it's not even just about being terrible now, it's about the attitude as well, because that just goes a further way. Like, could these players are void of confidence, they're void of interest, attitude, like, it's like, how do you even approach a game with a winning mentality when, you've got your vice captain, you've got Cucurella, like other players who definitely have, exchanged thoughts and the way they feel about things. They've got fans at the ground who are making it very, very evident that they're unhappy as well. They're directing all sorts of comments that obviously get felt by the players as well. So it's like, how should you be motivated in a game? And that's so welcome for any opponent. Yeah, let's hit Chelsea right now at their all-time low, weaknesses across the pitch, conceding every single game. Like, where do you get the confidence from? Like,
you can't find it from anywhere. And when you know now that there are players on the pitch who do not believe in the project, who do not believe in what's being done, who clearly don't believe in the manager, you're sort of thinking, well, what level of performance are we going to get from them? Because they're going out on the pitch and everyone knows they don't believe in what's happening. They don't believe in the process. They don't believe in the tactics. They don't believe in the manager. Where does that leave you kind of as a team going forward? And, you've got a situation now where Maresca, whether you like Maresca or not, is irrelevant. This group respected Enzo Maresca and they liked him and he was building something, and that's just all been ripped away. And ultimately, this all comes back to the ownership, for micromanaging everything, for not backing him properly in the transfer window in terms of quality, and not signing him a centre-back. Could you imagine, right, if we just signed a centre-back to replace Levi Colwill?
Not even replace Levi Colwill, Charlie. We needed a centre-back before Levi Colwill.
Oh, yeah, we did. We did. But do you know what I mean? Like, Enzo Maresca genuinely would still be here if we just bought him a centre-back.
Yeah, probably, or not, because he still would have known that the project is flawed, and he's.
Yeah, but I think he would have I think he would have stuck it out until the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe. But it's just so wild how significant our drop off is, and it just goes to show that we haven't built a squad that can be consistent over 38 Premier League.
Do you know how mad that is, though? To the amount of money we've spent and the amount of signings we've made, and we're sitting here saying this squad cannot compete in Premier League and Champions League simultaneously. Not only can it not do that, it's nowhere near being able to do that.
We are 22 points off the Premier League leaders.
Genuinely, I think we'll finish. I think we'll finish over 30 points behind Arsenal.
Mate,
do you know how bad? We finished 5
long
points.
Summer, long summer.
We finished 5 points behind Arsenal last season, right? We're probably going to finish 30 points behind them.
That is mental.
Or at least 25 points. That's 10 points worse. That's a lot more points worse. That's like 20 odd points worse off than last season. And as a fan, you're not demanding that you win everything every season, because it's not going to happen. But what you do demand are clear signs of progress. And the only progress we're making is getting consistently worse. And you look at it and you just think, surely they have to change tact in the summer and do something different. Surely. But I think these lot are just so, up themselves, so, deluded and so invested in this idea, instead of actually doing the right thing and changing. I think that despite all this, I genuinely think they're going to double down more than ever on this approach in the summer.
I expect it.
And you just look at it and you just think, where do we go from here? I'm genuinely concerned about the players that are going to come in the summer.
Well, I can tell you now, there'll be players that are young.
We already know too. We've got Quenda and Omega coming. We already know that, and neither of those make a difference at this point in time.
Mid-table times are here.
I just don't understand how you can be so kind of bury your head in the sand and just ignore things or just continue to insist you're right when you're so wrong? Like, generally speaking, right, if everybody's of the same opinion, bar yourselves, the chances are you're probably in the wrong. But they just seem to be one of those that just ignore the noise and just bury their heads. I guarantee, right, either tonight, either later on today, tomorrow, there will be a load of briefings defending the project and defending the club after this stuff. And it's just like, at this point now, fans have all seen it. They all see through it. They've all woken up to it. You know, no one believes in any of the BS that they say and that they're putting out. And action needs to be taken. Obviously, players speaking out is more powerful than anything the fans could do. But just on the fans, what are your thoughts on that protest on the 18th before the United game? Obviously, not all the details have come out for it yet. Obviously, fans from Strasbourg are meant to be coming over. I think you can create a very powerful visual if you've got Chelsea and Strasbourg fans marching against BLUECO. I don't know what the exact ins and outs are, but what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, it's a step in the right direction. It has to be better than the previous one, because the previous one, despite the good intentions, descended into an embarrassment at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on it? And obviously, we by the way, just to make it clear, you're not going to force change or force sell with one protest. You have to be relentless. This has to just be the starting point. But I mean, what are your thoughts on it? It sounds more promising than last time, and I guess it's just the start of sustained noise that needs to be made.
Yeah, it needs to be planned well, first and foremost. Like you said, there needs to be a clear plan and indication of what the message is, and I think people have already stated that. I think the Strasbourg fans coming together with the Chelsea fans is quite powerful, because it's showing two clubs who are clearly. Can you hear my echo? It's really annoying.
No, you're good.
I can hear myself speak there. But yeah, there's quite a powerful message there, with two clubs coming together and happy about the way their clubs have been run. Like, arguably Strasbourg fans probably getting hit worse than we are somehow. But yeah, I think obviously we were there for the Southampton one last year, which was hardly any.
Well, it was better. It was better than the one that's just happened.
And then there's the Brentford one that was just passed before the Brentford game, right? That was that
wasn't good, that one, though.
But again, it failed because it was such a mixture of, we want BLUECO out, and
Chelsea, too much messaging.
Chelsea are world champions, and we hate Tottenham, and
it was a farce. It was an embarrassment in the end.
So of course, yeah, I'm all for it. We will come together, and I think the fact that we've got players who are speaking out, it almost kind of relays that. It makes it even more powerful, because the fans have already voiced their discontent and the disarray. So it's there to see, and yeah, I think it becomes all the more powerful, especially against before playing a team like Manchester United, who beat us at Old Trafford as well last year. So. Yeah, I'm all for it. Obviously, it's better than not doing anything. We are at this point where we should be doing something. But I also think there's a greater concern. It's what comes next. I know it's not up to us to make that call. If BLUECO do sell, what comes next, right? There is also that to be concerned about. But I guess one step at a time, right? But yeah, obviously we will be there, and hopefully enough people in London who have the opportunity to can come together. But yeah, the message has to be quite clear and united.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think also that just has to be the start. I think there's opportunities to do things in the stadium. You have to do more than just a protest. Another point, you need to be doing things like, I don't know, for example, first 10 or 15 minutes, everybody stays in the concourse, and it's an empty stadium virtually before for the first 10-15 minutes of the game, and then everyone goes in. You've got to be doing things.
That's what it has kind of been, though. If you look around in the last few games that I've been to, the stadium is kind of half empty for the first 5-10 minutes. And I know obviously there's implications of transport and stuff to that.
But you've got an opportunity to create a very powerful visual on primetime TV on Sky, where you know, you could have the game kicking off and there's hardly any Chelsea fans in their seats for the first 10-15 minutes. And that's, you can't ignore those sorts of things. You know, doing a protest is great and is a good start and needs to happen, but you can't just do a protest and then everyone just goes and cracks on, and that's kind of that. You know, you have to do more, and it needs to, and more needs to come from everyone at the end of the day. But I also think there's something to be said that not as many match-going fans are actually that fussed about the situation as you might think. There's a lot of fans that are match-goers that don't live and breathe Chelsea like we do, like, you know, a lot of fans do. There's a lot of people that are just kind of, I don't want to call them casuals, but a lot of people are just there. They enjoy it on the weekend.
It is true.
They're there on the weekend and they enjoy it for some weekend entertainment, if you want to use that word. And then they don't think about Chelsea for the week, and then they'll go to the next game whenever the next game is. I think there has to be an understanding that not everyone is as invested in the club as we are. And I think that's and also there is genuinely probably a small, whilst, you know, everyone seemingly feels united online and, you know, with the people you mix with, you know, feel the same way. The reality is that not that large a percentage of the match going fans feel that way, that they need to take action.
You know what? Sorry, can you just bring up the comment about if we beat City and United, nobody's talking about BLUECO?
No, that's not true. Where's that?
It's just in the comments. Like,
I'll have to scroll up.
But I just wanted to like discuss that because I think that's actually a really important thing where if, say, we beat Man United and Man City, nothing changes and we're not suddenly okay. I think that's what we have been, and again, I'm also at fault for this, and I can like hold my hands up and say like certain games we've had throughout the season, or like certain big games that we have had, like the Barcelona game, like beating Liverpool at Stamford Bridge, like just to name some of the highlights of the season. I think those games were like you felt like such a high as a fan that you almost kind of forget, like, you know, the bigger picture, and obviously the fact that, you know, the last 4 years have had so many lows, but like we have had some of like the real highs to kind of paper over the cracks and make us feel like things are going to be okay. And actually now we need to like go away from that, because if we beat Man City and Man United, fine, but let me like tell you, we are finally supposed to be in a position where we are beating these teams, right? Like after all of this money spent. And that doesn't mean that suddenly next season we are in the position where we're like ready to like go and challenge for the title, because that's not the case. Like the reality is the same no matter who we beat right now or who we lose to. The reality is still the same. So it's like it's not, it doesn't actually mean anything.
And I think as well, what's really important is that you don't just do things when you're losing and when things are crap.
Yeah,
it's even more powerful to do it when you're doing well or you're on a good run of form. You can't have it that you're only looking to send a message when you're losing, and then when you're winning, oh, everything's fine. When you're winning, that papers over the issues, that puts the issues into the background slightly. That doesn't mean any issues are still there. Winning doesn't suddenly remove those issues. Those issues are still fully there. And look, even if we get to the FA Cup final, it's still the same thing. You know, that doesn't change my opinion on anything.
Actually, that confirms it, Charlie, that Chelsea is and has only been like a cup team and continues to be a cup team.
We've been a cup, but arguably though, we've been a cup team since we last won the Premier League under Conte.
Yeah, no, exactly. So where is the progression actually from that?
There is no progression.
There is no progression.
We were all delighted to win. We were all delighted to win the Club World Cup. You know, it was great to be there. It was great to obviously watch it and whatnot, and great for people to see it wherever they were seeing it. But I think there's a genuine conversation to have that winning the Club World Cup, as great as it was, has almost set us back and has actually done more harm than good, because it's papered over the cracks, and it's allowed the people in charge to believe what they're doing is working, when the reality was this was achieved in spite of them, not because of them.
I honestly think, and again, like I was also so happy we won the Club World
Of
Cup.
course you
Like,
are. You have to love it, when you win trophies. That's what it's about as fans.
yeah, and obviously, like again, the final performance and everything that just genuinely after that, I was like, yeah, Chelsea are ready, like to go and to challenge. And I said, like, I literally have a video at the start of the season when I was doing my predictions for Chelsea. How wrong was I? I said that we're not ready to win the Premier League this season because I
We're not
still
ready to win
think
the Premier
there's
League, no.
big areas that we need to address. But I said that I think, because at the time I thought it would be Liverpool and like Arsenal, potentially obviously City, that I think we would like push these guys and make it difficult and potentially like look at finishing just a few points off the Premier League winners, potentially. Like that is what I envisioned for the season. That's what the Club World Cup made me believe, like watching some of the performances, watching some of the players coming together, like Joao Pedro, Cole Palmer, like Enzo Fernandez playing well, like Cucurella there, Robert Sanchez, who was having a good keep. Let me not actually like go that far, because I never ever thought, and you've known this from the start, that Robert Sanchez is good enough. Like I still remember the Nottingham Forest game when he first came in, and like I've said since then that Robert Sanchez should never have been number one, and he wasn't number one, by the way, because he arrived to be a number two goalkeeper. By the way, let me just remind everybody. But anyways, like besides the point, and the fact that like we were sold that dream over summer that this is what Chelsea could be, like absolutely go and like challenge for the title, and that was always the bigger picture. And now I ask myself, would fans trade the Club World Cup if it meant this season like Chelsea would have been challenging for the title?
I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, I always want to win trophies. I would never trade trophies for anything. But if you said to me, oh, if you didn't win the Club World Cup, but you would have challenged for the title this season, I probably still would have taken the Club World Cup, because at the end of the day, it's about winning the trophies. That's what you look back on as a fan. You know, you don't sit back and think, oh, wasn't that a great season when we challenged for the league, but we did nothing and we come second or third or whatever, and we faded away.
Who's up for winning a Club World Cup right now? Nobody cares.
No, well, Chelsea fans care. Like you follow your team to win. You follow your team because you want to enjoy the days out and celebrate the trophies. You know, you're not following your team and celebrating challenging. You know, that shouldn't be celebrated.
A big sign of progression if this had been our season. You know?
Sure, and that should have been our season, because we win the Club World Cup.
It should have been our season, by the way, even winning the Club World Cup and that.
Yeah, no, but it should have been our season, right? Because and this is what it comes down to, right? There was an opportunity in the summer after getting Champions League football and winning 2 trophies. There was the opportunity there to be serious, go and sign top quality proven players and push on and make a challenge for the Premier League this season. But instead, we decided to be unserious, sign bang average players, and look where we are right now. As a result of it, we are where we are because we deserve to be where we are, and we are where we are because of the way that we're run. Everything that's happening is by design.
Even under the takeover, like we, under like Thomas Tuchel at the start, like after we won the Champions League, we were all still, even at that point, saying we're a couple players off winning a Premier League title.
Yeah, but do you know what the mad thing is, though? How many times do we keep saying after every window that, oh, Chelsea are 3 or 4 players away? Every window that closes, we keep saying that. We go into every window, we need 3 or 4 players, and we never get those 3 or 4 players. And they are experts at making sure we're a year away from being a year away, if that makes sense. You know, it's always we need 3 or 4 players, and nothing's ever done about it.
Mm-hmm. And now, let me tell you, we're a lot more than 3 or 4 players away, because
we are a lot more than 3 or 4 players away. And do you know what as well, right? Even if we got those 3 or 4 players that we need of the required quality, you've then got the issue with Liam Rossini is not a Premier League winning manager. And so you've got a problem there. And so whilst better recruitment and better players can mask over certain coaching deficiencies, you also got to have a bit about you. You also have to have a structure. You have to have good tactics. You have to have players buying into you. And so you don't have any of that. And I think it's clear that the players, despite what a lot of people have said, the players respected Maresca. The players liked Maresca. The players believed in what he was doing, could see what he was doing, had success with him. And there's no surprise now that 3 separate players have mentioned how much of an issue him leaving mid-season's been.
Of course, yeah, and it would have come to a shock to the system, and also like imagine how like excluded they feel as well from like decisions that get made, because it was a very like out of the blue decision for them as well to wake up, I suppose, on New Year's Day and find out that Maresca is actually gone. Like they may have heard whispers here and there and known a little bit about like breakdown in relations, etc. But ultimately it would have come as a shock to them as well, like seeing that news. And again, I say like for us fans, of course, like we're discontent, but they're at the forefront. They have to adapt to a new coach. They have to get to know a new coach. They have to buy into a new coach's philosophy. They have to understand what he wants to do, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of goes on, right? So how on earth are they supposed to feel inspired when they're working under somebody new every 5 months? Like Cucurella's worked under 6 coaches, and in my eyes, he came like last week. Like he's new, he's still new, and he's been under 6. So it actually is kind of insane. And of course, like they're not going to feel like this is a stable institution. And let's be real, like Cucurella isn't 20, like Enzo Fernandez
27.
isn't 19. That's what I'm saying. Like, how long do you think that they're going to stick around and wait for supposed, like, they're not. And you can't blame like Cucurella. Like, he is a winner. He's won trophies. He wants to win big trophies at club level too. So it's like, of course you're gonna say fair play if you want to go to Barcelona. Like, you're gonna say fair play if you want to go to Real Madrid to Enzo Fernandez. So it's like there's nothing even to say, like, you know, like stick around. Like, well, I don't blame you. If I was there, I probably wouldn't. Well, I would, because I'm a Chelsea fan. You know what I'm saying, though.
But also, you know, we know, just quickly, we were saying that, you know, last summer, for example, we were 3 to 4 away. We're more than that now, given how Man City and Arsenal have strengthened, given how Liverpool strengthened last summer. We're more than 3 or 4 players away now. You could say that we're 3 or 4 players away last summer. I would argue now we're probably 6, maybe 7 players away from competing, because that gap's grown between us and Arsenal and Man City. Last summer, 3 or 4, I'll give you that. This summer, with the way that those 2 teams have strengthened, I think we're 6, maybe 7 players away.
But we are, because if Cucurella and Enzo go, those are 2 players that you argue were.
And you wouldn't have banked on them leaving at the start of the season. That wouldn't have been in the thought process.
No, and also like you back to like build a team potentially around them. Like you could say, like, when we were picking our best starting 11, those 2 players are included. Like, you can say what you want about the dip in performances at times, but again, like Cucurella and Reece James, you can say you've got a solid fullback duo there. Our centre-back pairing has always been a question mark, and goalkeeper also with that. But in midfield, you know that you've got Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo there, have pretty much played every available minute to them as a duo, have had some pretty impressive games, have built chemistry together. Yeah. You've got Cole Palmer as well, who, yes, has been out to injury, but again, you're throwing him straight in there with the best possible starting 11. Like, those are certain players that we were like happy to say we've got our like backbone there, and you can address and hope that players around them come good as well. And now you're taking 2 out of that equation. You've got Reece James, who, bless him, is again like available sometimes. He's obviously been more available this season, but again, like has needed to be managed. So again, you're talking about a large turnover in players, in like picking starting 11 one week to the next week, and it's like, how could you possibly build a solid starting 11, let alone have like quality and backup and have a bench like City and Arsenal do, to bring on players that don't take away
off that quality. We're genuinely miles off. Look at the difference in quality in squads between City and Arsenal and Chelsea.
That's what I'm saying. And we were supposedly, after all the money we've spent, Charlie, we just about have a starting 11 that we're happy with. And
yeah, and do you know what's mad as well, right? And I genuinely think what Chelsea have done over the last 4 years, I think there's a serious case to be made that this is the single biggest waste of money in Premier League history. Genuinely, I genuinely believe that to be the case. The single biggest waste of money, because all teams get signings wrong. All teams waste money on signings. It happens. Not every signing is a success. When you go through the players that we've signed, and if I said to you, like, I'm not going to do it now because we haven't got the time to do it, but if I said to you, how many players of this current squad would you actually take forward into next season and beyond? There is a genuine case to say you would take 6, possibly 7 players out of the squad into next season. You would take Reece James, Cucurella, Colwell, Caicedo, Enzo, Palmer, João Pedro, and possibly Esteval. The rest of them, in my opinion, can all go. And that just goes to show how shocking the recruitment has been and how much money we've wasted. Like, the fact that you take maybe 7 or 8 players forward into next season is mental.
Yup.
And you've got, and like, your starting wingers are Garnacho and Gittins, and you've got Pedro Neto, who's
a combination of 100 million, by the way.
Yeah, Gittins, Delap, and Garnacho, those 3 between them cost £120 million, and they're all terrible.
And you could have bought a world-class goal-scoring winger. Instead, you
could have bought 2. You could have bought 2 top-class players for that money, and actually made a difference. You could have bought, with that money, right, with that 120 million quid that you spent on those 3 individuals, you could have signed Gurhi and Semenyo, 2 players who are Premier League proven, quality, experience, and both of them would have made an instant difference to this team. You could have signed those 2 for that money, or probably less than that money, and that was very viable. But instead, you waste £120 million on 3 players who are utterly useless.
Yep.
And so it's a massive problem. It is a massive problem. Just last little bit. Who do you expect? Because let's be real, right? Despite the fact that players seemingly want out, I think it's obvious that there won't be a mass exodus all in one summer. I expect 1, possibly 2, what you would call established first team stars to leave. How many players do you actually see leaving this summer in terms of what you would call the top players?
Enzo and Cucurella for me are gone.
I think they're both gone. I think for me, Cucurella is the one that I would say I'm most concerned about because he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's 27.
And this is the summer for him to go. Like, as in, you know, not from like, I mean, from a selfish standpoint, I don't want him to, but also, like you said, Cucurella is 27. You know,
not old, by the way, but for Chelsea, it's kind of like ancient.
Not old. Not old for his position, especially. Like, he can go and he can, like, he slots into, you know, a very good team, and he could be a starting left back choice easily. Like, you know, he's got so many qualities. Like, he's great offensively as well. He even scores goals for us, has scored goals for us. Like, you know, you can invert him. He's great one-on-one as well. You know, he's established himself as one of the very best in his position. Like, you know, we called him the best left back in the world.
Well, I think him and Nuno Mendes are the 2 best left backs in world football, in my opinion.
You're talking about he can still enjoy his football, and you know, if you want to go and play for Barcelona, can you really stop a player at that point? Like, you can't even blame Cucurella and deny that he's given it his absolute all. Like, he's always put in the effort. He's had passion. You know, he's celebrated with us. He's been there for us, and you can actually say he's given us exactly what we were after. I mean, at the start, I was apprehensive about Cucurella. I criticised him a lot when he first came in.
After that first season, you have to be honest about it, and you'd have to say,
yeah, like, you know what? More. But he proved
he wasn't good.
Himself.
Yeah.
And he grew into his role perfectly. And again, like, nobody wanted to see a team without Cucurella. So, you know, people might say this season he maybe took a bit of a dip here and there, but actually I'd argue that Cucurella has been one of our bright sparks under this, like, project, if you want to call it that.
At the end of the day, he's one of our best players, one of our most important players. And with 2 years left, and at his age, he's not. I would be very surprised if he was offered a new contract. And particularly now, after he's come out and publicly slammed the project, I think that's even less likely. And the problem is, right, even if the ownership, the directors, whoever it is, try and talk a good game or whatever, the players are stopping believing in that. You can say, oh, by the way, we're going to sign X, Y, Z, we're going to do this and that. They're not, because the evidence is there. The evidence is there. And Cucurella probably will leave. I don't think a new contract will be offered. But as we said earlier, you lose one of the best players in their position in world football. You're not signing Nuno Mendes. So whoever comes in is a significant downgrade. And it's the same with Enzo Fernandez. Whoever comes in for him, I can tell you now, if he does leave, it'll be Valentin Barco from Strasbourg, who is worse in every single department at this point of his career, at this point in time, than Enzo Fernandez. And so you lose two key starters in your team, and they're going to be significantly worse off.
Yeah.
It's just an absolute farce at the end of the day. It really is. And just lastly on Cole Palmer, I don't think he'll leave this summer, by the way. I think you're maybe looking more at the following summer. But again, never say never in football. You just don't know. What are your thoughts on him? I know, obviously, this season's been difficult for him. His form's not been good. He's struggled. It's clear that he's not really happy with what's going on, despite what's being said. Whether anyone can actually afford to pay the money Chelsea would demand for him is another conversation. But to me, Palmer's looking like someone that's, I don't want to say he's given up, but I think he looks like someone to me who, again, similar to Cucurella and Enzo, just doesn't believe in the direction the club's going in.
No, of course not. And like Cole Palmer's another one. I've always said Cole Palmer's not a player that's interested in sticking around and becoming a legend and proving himself to like a fan base. Cole Palmer knows how good he is. He knows what he can bring, and he knows he can pretty much enjoy his football anywhere. Right now you might argue difficult to start in like a Real Madrid potentially because they're stacked up in that department. But like Cole Palmer is a player that backs himself to go anywhere. And yeah, if he's not happy anymore at some point, he's another departure.
Yeah, I just don't see how anyone could pay the money you want. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if a player decides they want out, as we said earlier, there's nothing you can do about it. Newcastle tried to drag their heels in over Alexander Isak this summer. Look at what happened. Look at what happened in that situation. They paid the ultimate price for it. They paid the ultimate price. They dug their heels and they thought they could keep him. When you try and keep someone who does not want to be at the football club, you're just wasting your time at the end of the day. And this is the same situation with Cucurella and with Enzo Fernandez, particularly with the World Cup this summer. You need to have those futures wrapped up, ideally before the World Cup, because if that's being dealt with after the World Cup, that's going to have negative effects going into next season. And I just don't see how either of those players' futures are sorted out before the World Cup. I just don't see it. So we are in a situation where we are basically fucked at the end of the day. And we need more players to speak out. I'm not saying we need to lose more games because I'd never wish us to lose, but maybe we just do need things to fall down from the inside. Maybe we do need the club to slightly crash and burn in front of us, as painful as it is, to perhaps implement some real change. Final question. Do you see us finishing top 5 and getting Champions League football? I mean, not that it matters at the end of the day because we're not going to do anything serious with that Champions League football anyway, but do you see us finishing top 5? Are you worried that we could miss out on Europe entirely? So that's very plausible, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think we can be happy that Aston Villa have been as inconsistent as we have been. I think Liverpool probably make a late charge and definitely secure themselves a Champions League spot. I think with Chelsea, it's again going to come down just probably till the very end. We just about might make it, but still, that doesn't really change anything. So yeah, it probably could be like a Nottingham Forest away situation with Sunderland this year.
We don't even deserve it though. That's the thing. Like genuinely, we actually don't deserve it. And my hate of the ownership would be like, do you know what? I hope we don't. But yeah, anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. We're going to round it out there. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. There's still over 200 in the building. Make sure you're smashing the like button. Subscribe if you're new around here. Get these likes up to at least 150 on your way out. Nina, thanks for your time as always. Let the people know where they can find you and if you've got anything coming up at all.
Yeah, you can subscribe to me at Nina's Chelsea Corner. Taking a pause this week of Chelsea content, to be honest, just trying to enjoy my life outside Chelsea. So that's always fun. But obviously, we'll be back with the FA Cup this
What a
weekend.
big Port Vale preview, huge
Big
game.
Port Vale. Semi-final, by the way. So who knows?
Yeah, I can't wait to go and watch us lose at Wembley again.
Yeah, subscribe to Charlie, everyone, and yeah, take care.
Yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to Nina. Channel is tagged in the title. Go and support her. Loads of great content over there. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you lot again in another one soon. Up the Chelsea. BLUECO out. See you later.